How did the end of the Cold War affect South Africa's decolonization? Okay, so now we're discussing here Cold War. All right, so the end of the Cold War caused South Africa to go through decolonization. New constitutions were created, and the first one vote, one person election occurred. All right, so now let's discuss a little bit about the Cold War. Now, the Cold War. It was between the United States and the Soviet Union. Soviet Union pro-communist, and the United States anti-communist, right? So now you have South Africa going through decolonization, where colonial powers begin to remove their powers or their their elites from governing in those territories. So now South Africa is going to be in charge of governing themselves, right? And this is basically decolonization. If you've been keeping up, I gave you a few examples of African states that kind of were better off colonized or or following the European colonization structure. Others kind of like destroy the European structure. Others just, run lawlessly. All right. So now we have here South Africa going through decolonization. And at the end of the Cold War, okay, these states begin to form new constitutions, and they actually performed the first one vote, one person election occurred. So not every part of Africa attempted to destroy their neighbors or destroy themselves. You actually had some that, it was a pretty diplomatic, you know, semi-peaceful decolonization, right? Especially here with some democracy going on. The first one vote, one person election occurred. Remember that when South Africa went through decolonization, they became susceptible, or not victims, but we'll say like susceptible to becoming to capitalism or communism. So they can go either way. It just depends who gets there first, who manipulates them, who offers the best deal. So South Africa was susceptible to becoming either capitalist or communist. All right, depending on if the Soviet Union got there first or the United States got there first, and that was during the Cold War. But at the end of the Cold War, excuse me, these states begin to create new constitutions, form some form of democracy, have some type of nationalism, and they're growing. They're growing. They're growing.